Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Talea Dendy from Rochester, Minnesota. She is a cancer doula, board-certified independent patient advocate, podcaster, speaker, voiceover artist, and cancer survivor. You can find her at ontheotherside.life. We're going to be right back to her in 2 seconds. If you would, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers, viewers for the DreamWizard Plays game streams lately, every day at 5 p.m. Trying to get that out there. 15 currently available works of historical dream literature, working on book 16 and concurrent audiobook release. The 15th book is The World of Dreams by Havelock Ellis. You can find all this and more at benjaminthedreamwizard.com. And that is enough about me. Let's get back to our friend Talea. Thank you for being here. And more importantly, thank you for being here through all the technical difficulties. It took us over an hour to just get to this point. I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you so much for having me. And I am so honored to be here. Even though, like you said, we had those difficulties, it's a blessing to talk with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, that's possibly a great place to start, is like, what do you do with challenges and difficulties? Do you persevere? Is the goal worth it? And very often it is. And, you know, what will people find at ontheotherside.life? What do you say about yourself and your experience?
Sure. So on theotherside.life, they can go there and learn more about me and my cancer journey 11 years ago with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and essentially how I took, like you said, that tough challenge and turned it around to allow myself to be able to create a career that is more fulfilling. And I'm excited to wake up and take charge and help people out every day as a cancer doula and an independent patient advocate.
Very nice. Very nice. And a lot of it, yeah, it is that idea of persevering through struggles and difficulty.
Yeah.
And I would say, you'd probably agree, you know, more than anything, sometimes just being there with someone so they're not alone. It's like, this is going to suck, but I'll sit with you. I'll hold your hand, you know.
That's right. And, that's what a lot of cancer patients and people impacted by cancer say, is that, it's so beneficial to have someone walk with them through their cancer journey, and essentially having someone to talk to who has been through it before. That makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, definitely. That seems to be a common theme of a lot of the people I'm talking to lately, is sharing experiences for a variety of reasons. But number one, to let people know they're not alone. You're not the only one suffering and struggling. Other people have been there and done it, come out the other side. Definitely gives, I'd imagine, from your experience, you've had people tell you, it gives them hope, keeps them struggling forward.
That's right. A lot of people, they need that hope and encouragement. And, everyone's family, friends, and loved ones have good intentions, but sometimes there's a disconnect if they have not been through it themselves.
Yeah.
And so that can still leave the person experiencing cancer feeling alone. And so, really just having that person that you can connect with, even if it hasn't, they haven't had the same kind of cancer, but just knowing what that experience feels like, and the uncertainty, the anxiety, but then also being an example of, hey, you can get through this.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a very good thing too. Like, there's, it might be one thing if you had a family member who had also been through cancer, and then they would be part of your immediate extended support network, and they'd have that specialty knowledge, but it's not something that affects everyone. So very often the most well-meaning and deeply loving of people, they just don't have the information they need to tell you what you need to hear to get you through something, or to navigate the system, whatever you're dealing with.
That's right. That's right. Cancer is not something that is fun. It's not glamorous. Oftentimes people don't want to talk about it, and they don't know how to handle it. There's no manual, written specifically for a cancer diagnosis. And so a lot of times people, they just kind of struggle through it in a sense and learn as they go. But then also their family, friends, loved ones, co-workers, they don't know what to say. So
Yeah,
they say weird things sometimes, and that could be just uncomfortable for everyone. But I think talking about it can, before it happens, will make it a little bit easier if it does happen.
for sure.
Unfortunately, today, I know someone who has been touched by cancer in some way.
Yeah, it is pretty common. I mean, it went from I don't know. There's representations of back in the say the 50s and 60s where people would whisper it. Say they would call it the big C, and people didn't talk about it. It was almost very embarrassing to,
Yeah.
or people considered it embarrassing. We've come a long way since then, where people are not embarrassed as much by it. But do you run into that sometimes too, where people feel some kind of personal shame, like they're like they did something wrong? Um,
Absolutely. I
mm,
actually experienced that myself.
oh,
And I've talked to many other people who feel embarrassed and they're like, well, what did I do wrong? Was
yeah.
I not eating good enough? Was I not exercising good enough? And it wasn't until after I got through that period of my life, say maybe about 3 years after treatment, is when I actually started feeling comfortable talking about it
Mm.
because I realized how much I learned and how what I learned could help other people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's very often one of the best ways I think people get through some of these experiences, or make sense of them afterwards. What am I trying to say? You turn like a disaster into a strength in a way. Turn,
Yeah,
yeah, you turn trauma into triumph by sharing your story and helping other people who are going through the same thing. I've That seems to be a very consistent theme in a lot of folks I'm talking to as well as and I think broadly speaking that matches with the philosophical and psychological, you know, library of this is kind of how it works. It's one of the best ways to heal yourself personally after such an experience.
that's right. That's right. For me, it was like I went through this. Sure, there's a reason behind it, and for me, that was really important. Was understanding that reason, the reasons, and with an S.
Mm,
And one of those was to be able to reach back and help other people. That was definitely one of those reasons.
yeah. That's beautiful too. Is that so? I mean, if anyone's out there listening and you've gone through stuff and it still bothers you, see if you can turn that trauma into a triumph. See if you can do something. Do like there's a magic in doing something
Mhm.
about a problem, using even negative emotions sometimes to inspire positive action. So if you're out there listening to this, that's definitely you can go to ontheotherside.life and connect with Talea and um, maybe do you have people reach out like that? I mean, I don't want to. If that's not what you do, I don't want to
Yes.
encourage it, but I imagine you do.
Absolutely. People can reach out. Actually, there is a place on my website where they can schedule a free 30-minute meet and greet. And that
Nice.
is where, I would learn a little bit about them and then, of course, share a little bit about me. And if I can help them, I let them know how. If I feel like it's not a good fit or they feel like it's not a good fit, I
Yeah.
will try to, find someone else who can support them.
That is a big deal too. There's
Yeah.
even say in the broader realm of finding a private professional counselor, just to talk to about depression or
Mhm.
any of your problems in your life. Sometimes people find one and they don't like their personality, don't like the way they speak, don't like the way they think. It's a mismatch. And honestly, neither the patient nor the therapist is to blame in that regard. Different styles, different folks, different personalities, and they can clash. Sometimes just the way you speak, I get annoyed involuntarily, and it's not you. So I'm out of here. But and then some folks look at that like, oh, therapists are crap. I tried to see one, like maybe try a different one. But I love the idea that if your style doesn't resonate, doesn't click with someone, the way you approach it, the way you speak, your personality, nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with them. You find someone else, and that's a wonderful, loving thing that you do. You don't just say, "Well, good luck." You're like, "Let me try and find someone else." That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, again, it goes back to not leaving people hanging and feeling like they're alone
Yeah.
because if I don't work for them or they don't work for me, it's not like, hey, you're just a bad person. I don't want to work with you. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, it's not a good fit, but let me see if I can take this further and help you find the right person. And then maybe they'll think or they'll think we're a good fit for something else. Or they may just feel comfortable sending me an email and saying, hey, can you, answer this question for me. It could just be a one-off kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I just think that making sure people get what they need, that's at the core. That's what it's about.
For sure. And a lot of it is, I think people sometimes they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but they also lack the language to advocate for themselves in a way that is more neutral. So they might say, you could say this, I'm sorry, I don't like you. Nope, not many people are going to say it like that because that seems rude and it's the wrong message. Actually, it's like, I think I'd work better with someone else. You could say it that way. Or you could say, um, I might feel more comfortable if you could refer me to a colleague. No offense, just any way to kind of make it, give people the tools they need to speak up for themselves in a way that's like, you're not aggressive, you're not being, mean on purpose, but you have needs. And very often when there is a mismatch, it's nobody's fault. And you're just like, hey, thank you. You're a wonderful person. I'd like to work with someone else. Can we do that? Or do you have any other folks that I might be able to speak with? That kind of a thing.
Yeah. And you're right, Benjamin. It's like it's something that even I had to learn, before. And when I say reasons with an S, there were so many things that I learned through that horrible experience. And one of those was speaking up for myself.
Definitely. That can be a very difficult thing. Sometimes we're not sure what we feel. We can't put a label on it, so we're not sure what it is. We don't know. We haven't come to a decision precisely what we want to do about something. We don't know how to tell someone else what we need in that regard. What's the outcome you're looking for? Sometimes just having someone to talk through a process out loud and be completely wrong about all kinds of things. Say it wrong. Describe your feelings inaccurately. Like sometimes you got to really think out loud, and it can help to have someone else say, be uh, a sounding board in a way to give feedback, but also just another physical person present for you to direct those words at, so you can overcome that barrier of saying things in general, speaking your mind to another person. It helps a lot to have someone who is non-judgmental in that regard. Like, I don't think
Mhm.
everyone needs a professional therapist, but I think everyone needs a friend they can say, let me tell you what I'm thinking and you tell me how that makes you feel. Let me practice my words. Let me rehearse. Basically, sometimes we gotta, like we're going to go on stage and give a performance in some ways. I talked a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure you might have
yeah,
some comments.
yeah. Benjamin, that is a great point, because there is a therapist that I know. She wasn't someone that I actually worked with. I would love to, in the future, but she said people just need to say the thing.
Yeah.
She was just like, just quit trying to wrap it up so pretty. Just say the thing. And I was like, that's true. And she said, that's how, I get rid of a lot of stress and anxiety. I don't worry about it. She said, because the people that know me, they know I'm just going to say that thing. But for people that don't know me, if they take it the wrong way, if they're in a place where they're willing to heal and they've been offended by what I said, they should come to me and say, hey, I was a little turned off by that. What did you mean by that? And
Hmm.
then that can kind of start that two-way dialogue as well. But the person who's on the receiving end, they have to be in a place where they can do that, of course.
That too. Yeah, definitely. If you get two people who are both uncertain and struggling in their own ways, and they're trying to communicate, there's so many ways that can go wrong. It's
Yeah.
just,
Oh, yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
all do need to be a little more forgiving of each other, of like, hey, maybe you didn't mean it this way, but that kind of hurt my feelings. Hey,
Yeah.
maybe you did mean it that way because you thought I hurt your feelings first, and well, maybe I need to be offering an apology for that, and maybe we try again. There's a lot of, yeah, just good. communication. I think I've said this before, but I can't remember, so I'll say it one more time. There's like basically four parts to communication, as if you diagram it out. The idea of what's in my mind, the concept I have that I'm trying to communicate, the words that I choose to try to express it, and that's kind of part two. Then it goes through the air and hits your eardrums, and there's what you hear, which may be my exact words, but may not be the exact words, but also may not be. You also hear the tone, and you also hear the phrasing or the hesitation or it's just all kinds of stuff. Then there's that encoding process where now it goes in reverse from the ear up into the brain, and there's how you understand what I said. So there's a minimum 4 opportunities for everything to go horribly wrong. I'm amazed we can communicate with each other at all.
Right.
Excuse
And
me.
Benjamin, you take someone like me who's an empath, where, like you said, the tone and the
Mm,
body language, those speak louder to me, for me and to me, than
yeah.
what they're saying. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And it's funny. So I am probably your polar opposite in some ways. I'm on the autistic spectrum. Yeah. So my ability to perceive and the emotional resonance I have with others is severely muted. So I've had people who were speaking to me in a way that others perceived as aggressive. And I'm just listening to the content like, you're making a good point there. You're right. I was wrong about that. And I see now the logic. And the other person like, you just gonna let them yell at you like that? And I'm like, I didn't even see anger. I just didn't. I was like, you're just making a good point, man. And you're very passionate. I like that. So,
You know, in my studies, Benjamin, I've learned that a lot of that goes back to childhood experiences as well, and how your family and your parents may have communicated with you.
sure.
If there was a lot of yelling in the home, then someone might be more sensitive to that. So there's so many different dynamics.
For sure. Yeah. And just being kind to each other. I think, and try to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes, and open to new experiences and new ideas. It's a great way to go. And
Agree.
being, definitely, and I'm going to keep saying this too, because I want people out there to know they got someone they can reach out to on theotherside.life. If you're having these issues with cancer, you got a new diagnosis, you're somewhere stuck in the process, you don't know how to talk to your family, reach out to Talea. I mean, just from our brief conversation today and her, persistence and kindness, I can tell she's a good person you want to talk to. Um,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, that's my endorsement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we are both a little short on time today. I got to get you out of here, and I've got a pending appointment. So I don't usually rush into the dream part of things, but I want to leave plenty of time to get you a good answer and to get us both where we need to be. So if you're ready, we'll jump into that. Benjamin the Dream Wizard wants to help you pierce the veil of night and shine the light of understanding upon the mystery of dreams. Every episode of his Dreamscapes program features real dreamers gifted with rare insight into their nocturnal visions. New Dreamscapes episodes appear every week on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and other video hosting platforms, as well as free audiobooks highlighting the psychological principles which inform our dream experience and much, much more. To join the wizard as a guest, reach out across more than a dozen social media platforms and through the contact page at benjaminthedreamwizard.com, where you will also find the wizard's growing catalog of historical dream literature, available on Amazon, featuring the wisdom and wonder of exploration into the world of dreams over the past 2,000 years. That's Benjamin the Dream Wizard on YouTube and at benjaminthedreamwizard.com.
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right.
So, Benjamin, I mentioned throughout our talk so far
Mhm.
reasons as to why I may have had to experience cancer, or what I was supposed to get out of it. I'll put it that way. And one of the reasons I sincerely believe, and pretty much have received confirmation, is that I needed a career change.
Mm.
Okay. So, went to college, got a degree in science and math, went into supply chain, became a supply chain analyst, worked closely with engineers and things like that. High stress job, a lot of moving parts,
Yeah.
but it required a lot of organization and patience and coordination, all of those things. Prior to being diagnosed with cancer, was very stressed out from work, really felt like it wasn't the thing I wanted to do anymore, but in a sense was hesitant and afraid to make that change because number one, very great income.
Mm.
Number two, I had no idea what else I wanted to do. And so much uncertainty in itself wrapped up in that. I knew that I was supposed to be doing something helping people. I knew that when I went into that corporate space, it was like my whole soul was just being held captive.
Mm.
I felt like I couldn't be who I am. I was looked at differently. I had to put on this perfect persona, all of these things that were just totally against who I am. So, fast forward to cancer. And once I went through cancer and, got through treatment and all of that, there was this nagging sensation, this voice. And really, now that I want to take that word nagging out, it was this powerful, encouraging voice saying, hey, you survived this thing. Now focus on what you really want to do. Take, of course, better care of yourself, less stress, more sleep, all of those things. But then in addition to that, there was this whole career piece or work piece. What I was doing wasn't fulfilling. So I made that leap at the end of 2018. I was working for this aerospace company. I won't say their name. And really just a very negative environment, surrounded by people in my group who had worked there over 30 some years. And I was the newer person. I had been in that role maybe about a year and a half. In that year and a half, it was so stressful. Wasn't getting the proper training, poor communication, just very negative. So I decided to make my exit, which I did. The dream that I had, Benjamin, this past summer was the woman who was supposed to be mentoring me. She came into my dream and said, you will never make any money once you leave this company. And being my, entrepreneur and a small business owner,
Excuse me.
I literally sat up in my bed in the middle of the night, it was very traumatic in a sense because I'm only, maybe about 3-4 years into doing my business full time. Of course, the type of business that I have, it's tough. A lot of people can't afford to pay for my services in addition to their other healthcare needs, especially when they're going through cancer. So there's a lot of, looking for funding. There's a lot of, hey, I'll work with you on a sliding scale kind of thing. And a lot of times I really have to reevaluate and say, hey, I let this go. Or, hey, can I do this in addition to something else? But that was my dream. This woman who essentially was blocking my growth in this organization showed up. And I felt like she's trying to block me still. And in my mind, all of this is because I stood up for myself. I said, hey, this is not working for me anymore. I did what was best for me. And I made this dramatic change that affected, once again, my entire life, like cancer did. But the fact that I've never felt like giving up is what gives me hope. And talking to people and having them say, you helped me in this way, those are the things that keeps me going. And I've been blessed, even though at times it's tough financially, I've been blessed to not have been without food, to not have utilities shut off, that kind of thing. So it just really shook me to my core, like, hey, is this a sign that I need to stop this?
Yeah.
So that's my dream.
Okay. That is lots of great questions. Let me just do a timestamp here. Excuse me, still getting over being sick. This will go up like 2 or 3 weeks from now, so hopefully by then I'm actually feeling better. But
Okay.
so yeah, no, so many fascinating ways to go with that, and the working backwards in some ways from the most recent thing you said. There's a grand tradition of understanding dreams as messages from what different people at different times, different cultures have different understandings. The most common belief for almost the full past 2,000 years until modern days was message from God or the gods in some way, going back to, was it Zeus and Athena sending dreams in the Odyssey and the Iliad? Um, and so in my metaphorical concept, working from the purely scientific with an open mind to the mystical, it is not wrong or bad in my estimation to think of dreams as messages from some higher power. Now that higher power might be your superiorly perceptive subconscious in a way, and maybe that's how God puts a message in your brain, if that's your belief system, or you're just, or on the, like, as I say, on the purely scientific side, we perceive much and process much more than we're consciously aware of. So dreams that come to us to show us these things are like, here's what you've been thinking about. Here's a question that hasn't come into your mind yet. You need to take a look at, because you're going to understand something necessary out of that process. Okay, all of that to say, so why this woman? And so there's a variety of ways to look at that, of like, you needed to hear this person say that, whether they were correct or not, or you were putting a message to yourself in the mouth of someone that it was easier to hear it from. You're not going to make as much money doing what you're doing now as you would in the other job. You are making a sacrifice, and you put it in the mouth of someone who was, what am I trying to say? You would expect them to say something harsh, even if it was true. They weren't going to hold it back. So it was easier to hear it from them. And then you could actually kind of say, well, I don't like you anyway, even if it's true. You didn't put it in the mouth of, say, a relative who you would have been like, aren't you supposed to encourage me and support me? You're telling me this is all going to fail, or I'm going to be broke or whatever. That'd be harder to hear from them. That's my initial impression, just hearing that. There may be more to the dream in terms of, you've given a very thumbnail sketch, perfectly fine. That's how we do. We can go through it again and try and get a little more details about the setting you were in as it was happening. What's the first thing you remember in terms of where you were in the dream, this particular dream?
We were actually in that organization. And where all of us sat was kind of like in a corner of the office. And I see it vividly, the way everything looked. And where I sat was behind this person. And so right off to the left-hand side is like an aisle. And so we were standing in the aisle. And after I had spoke with my manager and informed this person that I would be leaving the organization, she must have made a beeline to this coworker. And so later that day, the coworker made that statement to me. And of course, her tone was harsh and critical. That was typical. And then that started a flurry of other people coming up. Oh, you know how they do. Oh, you're leaving. Oh, that kind of thing. And so that was the setting.
Okay. Okay, so very interesting. So you're maybe if I can get an idea of the timeline a little bit for this was actually a job you'd had before you got cancer and you actually left before you got cancer,
It
or
was
this was a job you
after.
left. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a job I left after I had cancer. And
After,
so I
okay.
had changed jobs after cancer. And then I ended up at this organization. This organization was the last corporate job that I had
Okay. So this was
after cancer.
yeah. So you had worked at, let's say job A. You had
Yes,
cancer during working at job A, then you
yeah,
recovered and you left. You got job B and you were doing job B at
y-
the same time you were doing the cancer advocacy,
after. So I did the cancer advocacy after.
leaving job B.
Yeah,
And
leaving job B.
and this
And
is
so
go ahead.
what I will know, Benjamin, is that I had started working towards figuring something out. I didn't know what that would be. So while I would say maybe 6 months before I left job B, I had started taking a course, coaching certification course.
Mm.
So that was before I had even decided that I was going to leave this place. But I knew something had to change. So I said, well, let me start with getting a certification in coaching. Maybe once I complete that, I can kind of figure out what to do with this, how this will look. And so I left organization B at the end of 2018. 2019 is when I went full fledged into what I'm doing now as a cancer doula and patient advocate.
And then where in that kind of real life timeline did the dream pop up?
The dream popped up this past summer.
That's that you did say that. That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this okay. So we've got the kind of real life timeline. This is a retrospective dream in a way versus a predictive dream in that sense. They're not
Yes.
official categories, just kind of sorting it out in my head. Maybe they will become
Hmm.
official categories once I figure out how the hell I do what I do. I do. I mean, just talk about me for 2 seconds. I also have experienced a job change in the last, 2 years ago. I decided to become a dream wizard. I make less money than I did before. This is all like this is my literally my experience. But on that note, what am I trying to do to get by? Writing books and publishing them. I want to do a wizard's guide to dream interpretation, and it'll be this is my method. This is what I do. Someday I'm working on that. When I understand what I do and I
Great.
have the language to describe it. Excuse me. But that's taking the focus off you. Sorry. So a retrospective dream in a way of looking back at your choices and decisions, and the setting of this dream was job B.
Yes. Job B.
Not
Hmm.
yeah. So you were very much, in my estimation, or what it feels like to me, is looking at should I have done that? Did I just shoot myself in the foot? Is this harsh coworker who was, as you were saying, kind of standing in the way of not properly training me, not giving me a leg. Oh, this person didn't care, and they didn't care that they didn't care. So you put in their mouth this I would say very realistic fear of your own, of like, did I make a mistake? Um, or as I was saying originally, alternately, I need to confront the reality that I'm probably going to make less money doing this. But then confronting that reality, I would say, gives you the chance to say, am I okay with that? So I make less money. So be it. Is this what I'm happier doing? Is this where I feel my calling is? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you woke up from this dream with a sense of how to understand it yourself. I don't usually jump right to that at this point in the process, but you
Mhm.
might have. You might have gotten a feeling of like, I'm okay with this, or no, I think I did make a mistake, or something that lingered.
Initially when I woke up, like my heart was racing.
Oh, yeah.
Once I calmed down, I came up with a couple of different things. The first one was that's nonsense because I wake up happy every day.
Yeah.
I don't dread going to that place anymore. So that was one thing that I got from it. The other thing was, is this a fear that I have to overcome? to have the peace of mind and joy of doing what I love every day? Do I really have to give this nice salary up? And I
Yeah.
think for me, Benjamin, it's never been a question of did I make a mistake? Because I feel like no, I did not. Just because of how I feel. Let's just take all the materialistic stuff out of it. I feel like I contributed to my healing by leaving the corporate space. Now, the other part of it is when you're accustomed to a certain level of money,
Yeah.
and of course, I see money as a tool. It doesn't, you know, some people have more than others, but it's a tool to kind of create, in a sense, the life that you want. Someone can get some of the things that you want. And so it really opened my eyes to the sacrifices that I've made.
Mm.
And so then that brought in the thought that, hey, stick with this a little bit longer, work out just fine. And I've always heard people say, you know, give up. You're so close to the finish line.
Mm.
Then after that dream, Benjamin, it was like I just kept coming across all these stories of people who had been working towards their career, whatever that was, for 20, 15, 20 years before they finally got to that level financially, awareness wise, um, and they just consistently showed up. And so there's so many different
Oh,
things
yeah.
that I actually got out of that dream.
Nice. You've had some good awareness of a good recollection of the experience, so you could examine the elements. You've already kind of done a lot of this dream analysis portion yourself. Um, and it seems like, you needed to start yourself like, okay, imagine I'm back in this old job and what are we doing? We're having another meeting. And what's happening? I'm not at the table. I'm in the hallway. And not only that, I'm behind someone else. All of these things are
Oh,
saying, why am I even here? What is even going on here? What do I even do? What's my contribution? Where's my value in this space? All of that just from that initial placing of yourself in relation to all these other people. Um,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. And then to in the dream have yourself walk through that process of here's what I did. I looked at my situation. I went and I told the manager, and for some reason the manager told the coworker, and then the coworker comes to you and
Yeah.
tells you. And did that happen? Was there like in this space? Was there gossipy backstabbing? Is that kind of
Yes, yes,
yeah?
Benjamin.
There you
And
go.
mind you, the manager and coworker probably had worked at this place for about the same amount of time, for
Mm.
a long number of years. So, yeah, and not the best environment.
Yeah, I'm getting all of that. I mean, if I had to say, what was this job like from your dream description? Like, this is a nightmare. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, you needed this. It all came to a head in your mind. It seems like at this time you're looking at, did I make a mistake? And we do that all the time with things. Should I have turned left at the light? Would I not be stuck in traffic now? We all second guess ourselves. So, and sometimes that's good. That analysis of choices. Did this turn out the way I wanted it to? Is there anything I could have done differently to make it better? It sounds like at the very least you're looking at it going, I had to get the hell out of here no matter what
Yeah.
happened. This was not going to be a good, not going to be a good environment. But at the same moment, you said there are consequences to that choice. You're in a relationship with someone. It's not working.
Mhm.
Leaving may be the correct choice for both of you. You still have to disentangle your lives. There's still the emotional heartache of the ending of a relationship. There's going to be positive and negative consequences to everything. And the one you looked at is like, I might make less money, but I'm not trapped in hell with these people anymore.
Yeah.
And you woke up from it. You were saying, focused on that question of did I make a mistake? And you said, no, I needed to go. I needed to go. And you showed yourself, I would say very clearly why that this was not the right place for you. And then that second question of confronting the reality of the second part of the consequence, you're giving up something. You're giving up the financial end of things. And I think, this is me rambling too, but I just to comment on your question is like, I don't have a very materialistic side either. I'm not looking for, having a dozen luxury sports cars. Or extra rooms, and I live in my garage, with some cats. This is a
Yeah.
very simple life,
Yeah.
but I need to. But we all need to pay the bills. We got to keep a roof over our head, keep the heat on in the winter, put some food on the table, do something fun once in a while. If you can find a way to say, what I've got is enough because the other things I've got make all the difference. It sounds like kind of that's the where this dream was leading you in your thought process.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it was really, sometimes things may not be going the best, and it's like you said, gosh, you know, maybe I should have done this instead of that, or again, no doubt in my mind that I should have left. No question there. Um, and I planned for it financially, all of those things. But I think too, it's like you look around you and maybe people that share the same space as you, um, they're making this thing work. They're like doing huge things with whatever it is. And it's like, okay, am I doing something wrong? So I guess it's kind of like part of that comparison piece too.
Mm,
But then coming back to the realization that I feel like I essentially saved my life and prevented another health crisis
yeah.
by leaving that place. So I feel like that's something I had to do for my physical health, emotional health, and mental health. And this is the price that I have to pay at this time. It doesn't mean it's always going to be like this.
For sure. Yeah.
But then coming from that entrepreneurial lens, no entrepreneur has ever had their business that I know. It may have happened for some people, but make a ton of money in 3 to 4 years. Maybe
Yep.
somewhere someone has, but most people I talk to, it takes time. So really, in a sense, learning to be patient with myself too was something else that I got out of it. Was like, hey,
Yeah.
this person has no merit in your life. What they're saying, isn't true. They don't have any control over anything that you're doing, but prove them wrong. Don't give up. Prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So it's so many different thoughts. And I journaled about it. I have like 15 pages.
On this
So
specific dream,
uh,
or just journaling on your experience in general.
the dream,
On the
this
dream,
specific
good.
dream.
That is another great thing. I mean, hopefully someday I will have too many people who want to talk to me. I can't do this for everybody, but writing down your dream, getting it literally out of your head onto paper in the physical world, there's something about that process. You see, that's what I do. I take someone
Yeah.
else's dream and I put it out of their head through mine in a way onto paper so that I can see the elements and then they start connecting. And I think we can do that too. Journaling is fantastic, and just roll with it. I thought this, I saw that, and here's how I feel about it, and here's how I feel about how I feel about it, and here's what I think maybe I might want to do. What if this might work? And we start exploring all these different options. Yeah, just going through that process of writing it out, hugely beneficial. I think you got a lot of benefit out of it before you even got to me here. And I think probably the best thing I was able to do was to reflect back to you that give you a second opinion on your own diagnosis of the dream itself, and reinforce what you were pretty certain was the understanding. So if I could just be that second voice to say, I agree. I think you got it.
Very helpful. Very
Yeah.
helpful.
That can be just someone to give you a piece of their mind and say you're not off base. That can be tremendously helpful. I look for that too. As you're saying, other professionals building businesses. I keep reassuring myself. It can take 10 years to become an overnight success. So I'm on
Yeah.
track.
So true. So true. One question kind of popped into my
Sure.
mind. And when you've been through, and this is typical for a lot of people in the corporate space, um, they've, in a sense, faced some trauma in that corporate world.
Yeah.
It can be hard for, people to move past that in a sense. I've talked to people, I have people in my network who the thought of going back and working for someone else terrifies them.
Yeah.
Um, how do do you think that this dream could be related to that in some way, like a form of trauma or something like that? Or am I just taking it too deep when I think about it that way too?
I think it is. Trauma is an interesting thing in general, but also in how people understand it. And there's a variety of levels of trauma. You know, the idea of um, smashing your finger with a hammer, you get a little bit of a bruise. God, that hurt. But then there's automobile wreck trauma, surgery time trauma. So there's, and that's the same thing true with our psychology. There's these varying degrees, and different people respond to the same situation in different ways. They have different tolerance for levels of trauma. You get me, the guy that sounded like he was angry and yelling at me, and I'm like, you're making a good point. I'm not even feeling an aggression that another person was observing from the outside. So that's just an example. I think it can be very traumatic working in a bad work environment because you want to succeed. You want to do well. You want mentors. You want to be involved in the process. You want to feel like you're contributing something useful. And if you had, say, a constellation of 10 or 12 different things you would hope to go well in that environment, and 12 out of 12 of them are just go to shit. It's like, this is horrible. And you keep struggling and struggling to make it work. And maybe you do eventually. Some people adapt and overcome, and it's worth it to them to stay and try and figure it out. And then some places are so bad, it's like, I can see this is never going to get better. I got to just get the hell up, pull the ripcord while I still can before the plane crashes, jump out with the parachute. Yeah. So no, I think the more personally, what am I trying to say? You know, I guess personally isn't the right word, but like uniquely traumatic a specific type of experience is to you, the more necessary it's going to be to process it and get something out of it, get an understanding of what happened there. Did I make the right choice? Did I screw up? If I had just changed my approach, could I have been successful? And you're looking at this like, I think from this dreams perspective is saying, nah, I question myself appropriately, as we ought to, second guess sometimes, or at least analyze our choices. That place was a mess, and I got out with very little damage, considering I could have been there for 10 years and just miserable. And who wants to live that way for the money, even? I don't know if that addresses your question. I hope it does.
Oh, that's a great point because for a long time, I looked at myself like, well, what am I doing wrong?
Mm,
Am I making these people feel a certain way for them to treat me this way? So many questions. And what really validated what I was feeling was when we had a health coach there. And I, just shared with her, and she's like, Talea, you are worth more than staying someplace where they obviously don't want you or appreciate you.
yeah.
And that was like, boom, that was all I needed.
That is a big deal. Yeah, and I get
I was
that too
like,
from the imagery in your dream and from discussing with you about that and from just feeling your energy in a way of like, I can't imagine anyone in any environment looking at you like someone who couldn't be of some value and wasn't a generally good person and wouldn't be willing to, step up and pitch in and do what needs to get done, team player style. And to have your, obvious talents, I'd say, rejected and treated so harshly. It's natural to question yourself and your choices, but it's also very healthy to say, based on who I am and the feedback I get from the people who know me, this was the right decision. This was necessary for me not to inflict more trauma on myself, when it wasn't, when you don't have to. So,
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's helpful.
You're welcome. Well, we're coming up on the time limit here. But and I never know how these are going to go. I ask folks, don't tell me anything about the dream, so I have no idea what people are going to say. I take it as it comes. That's usually better for me because I will overthink something, and then I will start thinking about my thoughts about the thoughts I had about my thoughts. And by the time I get to there, it's not your dream anymore. I'm not listening. I'm hearing myself talk. So I try not to know. And then I get thrown curveballs. People are like, I'm pretty sure I know what this dream means. Let's talk about it. I'll do that. You don't have to be completely clueless. You can come with your own ideas and we'll discuss it and make it make sense. So, but let me do this. Once again, I'm rambling. Wrapping things up at the end. This has been our friend Talea Dendy from Rochester, Minnesota, a cancer doula, board certified, independent patient advocate, podcaster, speaker, voiceover artist, cancer survivor. You can find her at ontheotherside.life. That's her website. And I'll just say, Talea, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. I enjoyed talking with you. Very helpful. And thank you for what you do. This is very interesting and very helpful. Thank you.
Very cool. That if I can make a little bit of if I can keep the lights on and a roof over my head and help people, I'm loving my life. Speaking of which, hey, would you kindly like, share, subscribe, tell your friends? Always need more volunteer dreamers, more viewers. 15 currently available works of historical dream literature. The most recent, The World of Dreams, by Havelock Ellis from 1911. A beautifully updated and highly footnoted, I would say the definitive version of that book. There's others out there, but buy my product and thank you for your support. Also, you get, hey, look at this. I got a t-shirt. I put them on once in a while to remind people that they're out there. Coffee mug. You can find all this and more links at benjaminthedreamwizard.com. I think that's it. I rambled long enough. I'm just going to say again, thanks for being here. It was good talking to you too. And to everybody out there, thanks for listening.